Hey guys. So last night, a friend of mine, Saya Manvisenko, and I were talking on MSN, and he was pretty frustrated because he didn't know how to thread his sewing machine. So I said that, would it help if I made a video demonstrating it? And he said yes, and then that escalated into basically a video of the whole sewing process. So I'm just going to cover the basics here. There'll probably be a lot of things I refer to, and I'll say to like Google it or something, but I'm going to get as much as I can here. I'm going to start with threading the machine, and then actually going through the sewing process with the needle and the thread and all that, and then close it with a simple finishing of the seams. So, here we go. This is my machine, Singer Advance. If you happen to have the same machine as me, then you're really in luck because it'll be exactly the same. But even if you don't, most sewing machines will have mostly the same method of threading the machine. They have arrows. Sorry for the blurriness here, but it's the best I can do with the camera. Arrows that you follow and tell you how to thread it. So, start with turning the machine on, of course. There's a power button over here. There we go. And first, I have a top-loading machine, thank God. I had a front-loading machine, my very first sewing machine, and it was horrific, so I made sure to get a top-loading machine on my second one. So if you guys have a front-loading machine, I can't really show you much as far as that goes, obviously, but it's basically the same principle, just a few things differently, and you can refer to your owner's manual for that. Okay, so I've got my white thread here, and I've got my little bobbin, the little clear or silver things that you put down in here. You can also put them here if you want, but I'm too lazy to do that, so I always just use the actual thread right here, but I'll get more to that in a second. So I'm going to put my bobbin on here, because I want to make sure I got some thread on, obviously. And see if I can put my camera somewhere and just kind of zoom in here, see what happens. Try to stay out of the way of the camera here while I'm doing this first part so you guys can actually see. I'm going to take my thread here and I'm going to grab onto it, then wrap it around my bobbin a few times just so I've got a good grip on there. Then I'm going to push my bobbin right here back to where it's holding onto the little hook here. Then I'm going to start pressing on my foot pedal to start winding the bobbin. I'm going to still holding on to it, and got my thread here. I'm just going to let go, and it's going to start taking the string right off without me actually doing anything. See if I can get closer here on that. As you can see, it's taking the thread right off the bobbin, onto the bobbin here. Put a little bit more on there. Not doing too much to show you guys, but make sure we don't run out. Okay, so I've got that. Now I'm going to snip here. These are my crappy scissors. My other good scissors in the other room. Oh well. Okay. Now I'm going to slide that back over, pop it off, and then that goes down here. I drop it in, and probably won't be able to tell because I'm sure the video will be blurry here on YouTube, but there's some little hooks. I'm going to loop the thread through there. I'm just going to let it sit back there for a second and chill. Okay, now like I mentioned before, you can do the exact same thing with another bobbin and more thread on it and have that bobbin sitting here. However, that takes time and I'm lazy, so I do this instead. I take my spool of thread and pop it on there. You kind of push a little bit to hold the stickiness of the label on there. And I'm going to grab my string here that's hanging down. Alright, now here we go, actually threading the machine. This is not easy, by the way, holding the stupid camera. Alright, so first, now again, let me reiterate that not all machines are exactly the same. You just need to follow your little arrows here. But they're pretty similar. And now that I'm doing this, I'm realizing how filthy my machine is. Oh my god. Okay, so got my thread here. I'm going to come around this little boop. Hard to do. One-handed. wrap it. There we go. Wrapped it around, and I'm coming back here underneath the little silver, I don't know what the name of it is anyway. Coming down here, following my arrows. Seeing the arrows telling me to go down and then back up. So coming down and then oops, down and then back up. And this arrow is telling me to go over and then back down. So that's what I do. And I've got my thread down here, just hanging loose here. Now there are a few other things that you can do. However, they're really unnecessary and they take extra time. And I'm always in a rush to get stuff done, so I don't do it. So once you've got your thread hanging down here, after you've done all your arrows, you're going to take it. I like to lick the end of it to make sure it's not split. So you're going to lick the end of it, and then make sure you've got enough pull here. There we go. And then stick it through the hole on your needle there. Now you want to go from front to back. Oops, stabbed myself there. You've got your thread hanging, chilling back there. Now, on my machine, it's super cool, so all I have to do is just tap my foot pedal and it loops the threads together for me. Not all machines can do that, so I'm going to show you what mine does first. You can see, then we'll go on to other steps if your machine can't do that. So I'm going to tap my foot pedal down here, and it's going to take this thread here from my lower bobbin and loop it through my top one. So let's see here. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to grab my bottom thread, and I've got both my threads from top and bottom right here. I'm just going to kind of twist them a little bit to keep them together, just to make it easier for me. Then I'm going to take my little lid here and pop it back on there. So now I'm actually ready to start sewing. But in case your machine cannot do that, and obviously you'd need to test it to be able to find out, you just hit your pedal down there, and if your bottom thread does not loop up, then you know your machine doesn't do that. If that's the case, then you're going to come over here, and you've got a little knob. It's either going to be on the bottom or the top, depending on the machine, and you can turn it back and forth. And what it does, see if I can get back. This is my needle here, so if you can try to see what the needle does. Sorry it's so shaky, I'm trying to do everything one-handed. If you move it, it moves your needle up and down, see? So if your machine, you can't just hit the pedal there and loop it. You're going to move that down, so your needle goes down in the bottom, grabs that thread, and comes back up with it. It might take a few tries. I remember because my first machine did that, and I hated it. So that was another thing I had to make sure I got fixed by the time I got a new machine. I love my Singer Advance. My first one was a Brother, and it was just god-awful, even though most people think that Brothers are awesome and Singers are terrible. I've found out that it's quite the different, at least in my situation, so... Okay, anyway, now, what do I do with my fabric? Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've already cut a little strip of fabric here, just some scrap I had to show the actual sewing process. And I'm going to stick it up underneath here, and notice I've still got my threads hanging back. You want them to be back over the top right corner there, just hanging out and chilling. So I've got mine under here, and I've got my machine to set to a basic, top stitch here. And I'm going to hold on to my two threads at first. The reason why you have to hold on is because if you don't, it'll either get caught underneath and jack up your machine, and it gets really annoying. You have to fix it and all this crap, or it the needle will let go of the thread and it'll unthread. So I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm also going to keep a finger or two on my fabric to make sure it goes in straight. Again, sorry for the blurriness. I'm trying to hold the machine and do the stupid at the same time. It's awful. Okay, so got a little lever here. I'm going to push that. It drops my needle down on the fabric. So now I'm totally ready to start. Here we go. I'm going to start really light on my pedal. Also, I always make sure that I'm barefooted when I sew. That way, I'm sure to notice how much pressure I'm putting on the foot. Because if you put too much pressure on the foot, then obviously it's going to go too fast, and that might be faster than you're ready for, or too slow and takes forever. So, if you're barefooted, you can really feel a lot better. Okay, here we go. Gonna go forward a few stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you have to do something called back stitching. This is so that your thread doesn't unravel and then you end up walking around the convention naked. So your machine is going to have some kind of button somewhere on it that has some kind of dotted arrow like this one. Trying to remember what my brother looked like. I think my brother's had it somewhere up here anyway, but it looked pretty much the same. So you're going to hold that button down, and you're going to notice that the machine starts to stitch in reverse. So here we go. You don't even have to push the foot pedal down for that. You just have to push the actual button, at least on my machine. So now we've done our back stitch. I'm going to lift my little lever up here again. I'm going to slide my 2 threads back underneath the foot. That's just so they're out of my way. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to hold them anymore either. So I'm going to hold on to my fabric here so I can make sure it's going in a straight line underneath the machine. I'm going to start sewing again.